So first off, I want to welcome everyone to this live stream. I'm Harold. I'm together with my partner Lasse. We're going to give a short introduction to each ourselves in a bit. But today's live training is the B2B protocol. We've been sharing this on LinkedIn for a while now, or a couple of times, and we've received really good feedback. But a lot of you guys have asked us to, let's say, make it a bit more digestible. So that's one of the things that we focus on for this live training, making this, let's say, more digestible, but also for us to, let's say, try to stick within an hour for the full training. So I think with that, our promise for today is basically one thing, and that is to teach you about the proven 3-step protocol that we've developed over the past decade that turns your marketing into a steady stream of quality B2B leads and book meetings, all without having to need to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on paid ads, or requiring to do a complete overhaul of the system, the team, and the setup that you currently have. So that's our promise for today. And then I'm going to leave it to Lasse to give you the agenda.
Yeah. So for today's agenda, then we have basically 3 main segments that we're going to take you through. So if you might skip to the next slide, Harold. This is a thing you will mention, like see as well. With we haven't figured out how we both can have screen control, so there will be a little bit of back and forth as of me figuring out when Harold moves and not. But there's 3 parts. We're going to cover the first pillar, which is the funnel. So the funnel is something which you might think of it as a very basic marketing term and a very basic illustration that we're going to show, but it's meant to be digestible to start off with so that we can add modules in over time. And this is just the foundation for how we can actually make anyone come in to our ecosystem, to nurture them and to convert them, which we will get into soon. And then the second pillar is the actual modules. So this is more so the different types of new hacks and tricks that you read about on LinkedIn and that you see on YouTube, and where we plug them into the overall funnel. And then for the third pillar, then we'll be showing you more examples of all of these things coming to life with some of our own cases, with some client cases, etc., so that you can see actually like actionable flows as of how things work to create sustainable growth.
And one thing that I wanted to just shoot in before we start is there's 101 different ways you can put this together. You can do it the complex way, you can also do the simple way. And I just wanted to highlight one example of someone that we worked with, which is Felix, who after just taking the very tiny, teeny pieces that I'm going to show you a bit at the end, and put together a post and a system that the first post got 2,000 comments and the third post got more than 1,000 comments. And he was like, hey, can you help me how to handle this volume? So you don't need to have a super sophisticated setup. You can just take a couple of the pieces that we're going to share with you, and you should be able to see results with that as well. And the one thing that I also wanted to highlight is when it comes to setting up marketing systems for growth, for lead generation, for driving pipeline growth, you can do it in a very sophisticated way and super complex, or you can do it a simpler way. But there's a lot of things that often people think is required. But there are a lot of things that aren't required for this. So one, it will not require you to spend thousands of dollars every single month on ads. It will not require you to replace your current strategy. It will not require you to fire our existing team or employees if you have a team and you are a founder. This is a protocol that is meant to aid, not replace what you currently have. It's meant to strengthen what you have. It's meant as a supplement, not something that you need to tear down the entire house to then build it up again. I just wanted to add that disclaimer in the beginning. And I also want to highlight that at the end, if you guys stay to the end, you will have the option to join the Q&A that we're going to do live and ask myself, but also ask us questions directly, and we're going to give you feedback. So that could be you present your case. If you want to let us go more in depth into something, no matter what it is, there's no question off the table. You can go through them in the Q&A. So if you stay to the end, you'll be able to join that. And one thing, just as a funny thing, like if you see down in the very bottom left corner, you see a small face and a headshot of myself or Lasse. That's basically how we know who's going to talk about what. And now I'm going to leave it to Lasse because you see Lasse in the bottom left corner.
Yeah, so it might look a little bit clumsy that you see our faces down there, and you just have to excuse us for that. Like PowerPoint presentations isn't really our strong suit. We're like quite decent at B2B growth, but not really PowerPoint. But so to give a little bit of backstory as to why we're doing this protocol as a whole and why we've built it in the way that we've built it, then there are two core problems or two layers of problems that we keep seeing like over and over with B2B businesses. The first core problem being that if you look at your clientele today or your general clientele of all time, where have they come from? Do you have like most clients coming from ads? Do you have most clients coming from like cold email campaigns that someone made you run? Or are they coming from referrals? Because typically when we talk to B2B businesses, most clients come from referrals. And the reason that this is the case is because they just have this like odd approach that they do here and there, but there's no foundation to make sure that you have any other source that creates sales. So that leads us to the second layer of the problem, which is the shiny objects that come up. So we can be guilty of this as well. I have to start with that, which is that you will read on LinkedIn and you will see on YouTube many different gurus talking about like, oh, this new email outreach strategy or LinkedIn outreach or LinkedIn inbound or cold calling sequence or cold calling script or whatever is the new thing, which will make everything work. And the thing is, they work to some extent because I'm sure that you can remember that like one time where you actually got a couple of leads or a couple of clients or whatever it is, like this odd lead or odd client from this email campaign that someone set up or that you tested. But are you still doing it today? Likelihood is not, because it's just a one-time thing which works during a period until the saturation curve catches up with it. And that's where the whole protocol is the solution here, which is to make a funnel that makes it so that you can leverage all of the different shiny objects that come, but you have the actual foundation to convert them to clients where the shiny objects are interchangeable.
And then it's the next one. So I mentioned in the beginning that we're going to give a short introduction to each ourselves, and because who are we? Who are we to talk about this? My name is Harold Rona. I'm the founder and CEO of Bureau Ventures. We do a lot of different things, but primarily we help companies with go-to-market, digital growth, and strategies using every type of imaginable, let's say, inbound and marketing strategy, and also outbound. But also we are super into AI and automation. So myself, a very short background, I got started with building my first website and programming when I was 11. And at 16, I got a bit of a, let's say, not an ultimatum, but I wanted to do something more. So that's when I got into business. And I spent the last 14 years in digital business, digital growth, and digital marketing and sales. I love learning. I love testing new things. And I also love and always ask the question in terms of what's possible. And you can also get Lasse to confirm this, but I'm a bit of a self-proclaimed AI nerd. I research everything about AI because that's really, let's say, the next venture or the next paradigm we're into. And then I'm going to leave Lasse with his intro.
Yeah, so to confirm what Harold is saying, then it's become kind of like an internal company meme that Harold sends like one podcast, which is 3 hours per day, even though that he actually works full days. Then it's just like, where does he get the time to actually sit and listen to these guys talk about whatever topic it might be? But over to me. Then when I was a kid, people used to tell me that I was quite, or at least in hindsight, people didn't tell me as a kid, but that I was quite delusional. Like I was really good in math. And then I tried to become like an athlete. I tried to become like a professional in football. I was never really that good, hence the delusion. But I messed up my knees when I was like 16, 17. And that sparked like this desire that I had to play sports and this grit that I built up. I moved that into business and started looking into, okay, what types of things am I good at and what can I really foster? So in 2020, I was supposed to start studying at the university. Thanks to Harold, then I met him through a random Instagram DM that I sent. And I like to say in hindsight that Harold made me quit university, even though Harold might not agree with that. But I started working with him and learning more about his stuff. And like fast forward to today, then psychology and just consumer behavior is just my drug. Like I love to learn about cause and effect, what I can do to make other things happen, and what types of things basically cause other types of things. And then today in the company, then I run the operations. So I hire people and I make sure that the team runs smoothly. And then like the split between me and Harold, so you understand the dynamic, is that Harold is super, super techy. And then I try to package the tech that Harold builds into something that we can actually sell and monetize. And that's basically me for you. So with that, let's get into the actual good stuff here. So the thing that we're going through is going to be basically your modular blueprint for sustainable B2B lead gen, emphasizing sustainable here, because that will come back like several times. So let's move into the next slide, Harold. So the first pillar that we will talk about is the funnel in itself. And the shape of this and the three parts might already look familiar, but I'll get into them. So most businesses do a lot of random stuff. But the thing is that they lack an overall map of what they're doing. And that's what we're going to try to help you just figure out and understand here so that you can work on it. So basically, the funnel that we talk about is this general funnel that you probably even remember from high school. So it's super basic, and you can sit now and think, okay, I just joined this live training, and then Harold and Lasse is showing me like a top, middle, and bottom of funnel, like some sort of kid marketing wise. That's not really the case. Like we're trying to make this in a very digestible way so that we start with something which you already know and already know the shape of, how it works, and then we will show you how this actually relates to B2B growth. So to start with the top of funnel, the top of funnel is the process of actually generating leads. I'd like to call this the actual lead gen, because all of the other things are just the nurturing and the call to actions that we do at a later point. So when doing the top of funnel, then we're just trying many different types of these methods, which is basically these shiny objects that we talked about. So that could be cold calling, which honestly, to talk about it, like since I could even walk, then I don't think cold calling ever was a shiny object. But if you do it, then kudos to you. But you have other things such as cold emailing, doing LinkedIn inbound or outbound as we preach. You can do Facebook ads, you can do Google ads. All of these things are just a measure to get people into the top of the funnel, and they're interchangeable. It doesn't matter if you have the whole structure and the whole system in place here, what type of entry point that you use into the funnel. So this is the difference when you see someone actually coming up and like it seems like your competitors are getting a lot of clients from their Google ads or whatever it is. They're just leveraging the Google ads into their infrastructure, which converts them at later points. So Google ads can have a big upswing like next week, and then in a couple of years when it doesn't work anymore, then your funnel would still work because the first part is interchangeable. So moving on to the next step. So the middle of funnel is basically what you do with the leads that have come in to the top of funnel. Again, now it might seem like I'm your high school teacher and I'm speaking in obvious terms, but this is the part where we start nurturing this audience. So we have the leads coming in, they can come from whatever source it is, and then we want to start nurturing them in some way. So the primary ways, which Harold will go deeper into in the next segment, is to do email follow-ups to them and to do ad follow-ups. And then obviously you also get them as followers on different platforms when they convert so that you can be shown more times. But the purpose here is basically to make them from someone which is just opted in for you to becoming someone that they actually know and someone that is a part, an integral part of their days. So moving to the next slide, Harold, so that I make the point, then you're already, when you've opted in to something and they've seen you once, they might have seen a VSL or they might have joined a live training like this for all I know, then you're already a little part of their world. So you can look like at yourself or close your eyes right now and think, what is Harold and Lasse to you? Because right now we're two weirdos who are talking to you during like a Friday evening, at least in European time. But we are already a part of your world. And what we're going to try to do, and what you should also try to do when you have someone at this point, is to just become a larger part of their world. So imagine that any time now that you open Facebook or Instagram, that boom, there you have me, or there you have a meme picture of Harold who's talking about some type of B2B structure, which is really, really helpful for you. If you see that every time that you open different platforms, you will just get to know us way more and more, which leads us to the last part of the funnel. So that is the bottom of the funnel. So when you already started becoming a part of their world, you just need to master how do we actually convert them into either that being a call. If you run like larger services, or you sell to really, really big companies, you know that you need to go through a call. You can't really do automatic selling. But if you do smaller types of products, or if you run software companies or whatever it is, then the bottom of funnel is basically just a call to action to make someone buy. And this is like the lines between the bottom of funnel and the middle of funnel is kind of blurred, because in the same type of sequences that you run things in the middle of funnel, you add in different sorts of call to actions. But as Harold will get to later, then there's different types of like technical setups that we can do to make the infrastructure so that people are shown the actual call to actions at the point where they're ready in time. So our goal here overall is just to make someone commit. So make someone commit to either buy your thing if it's a smaller thing, or if it's like fewer people involved in the decision on the purchasing side, or to book a call with you directly. So you want to, if we go and look at the full like summary now, Harold, then you want to use the top of funnel as a way to actually get people to come into it. Like this is interchangeable. So this is why you have like all of these new methods popping up. You just need to make sure that you know about the new method. But the new method isn't going to make your business sustainable. It will give it a boost, and then it will give it an equal downtime when that method is saturated and saturation curve is hit. So you want to make sure that the middle of funnel and the bottom of funnel that you have is properly nurturing the leads that you get in from whatever type of method that the top of funnel, like the landscape right now of marketing and B2B, is allowing you to do. The middle of funnel and bottom of funnel will be quite standardized and something that you set up once and that will keep converting. And that's how the funnel works. So now I will give the word to Harold to go into the actual modules of how we place things into the top, middle, and bottom of funnel.
So far, Lasse gave you the, let's say, I could typically call it the map, but it's the funnel. It's the structure that is the foundational, let's say, structure for how you do stuff. And if you do something that doesn't fit into that structure, like you shouldn't probably not do it. So the pillar number 2 that we want to go into is the modules, which is now you have the structures, you have the funnel, what modules to put into the different ones. And let's give you a bit of a hint in the beginning in terms of what it's going to be. But these are the plug and play components. So you can do 101 different things on top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, but we're going to focus on a couple of them. And the 3 steps here will always be the same. But what you fill them with, again, there are the things that are going to change. The modules and the components that I'm going to go into specifically, they are things that we've been working on over the past decade. It's methodologies, it's tactics, it's strategies that all fit into this funnel of the top, middle, and bottom of funnel. But it depends on what your business is like, what your audience is like, what you offer and what you sell, where you're located. Different modules work better in different locations and different businesses. So I wouldn't say that this or these 5 things is the go-to for you. It needs to be tailored. But again, we can go more into that in the Q&A at the end. But I want to give you a bit of a warning. And that is, now it's going to be a bit of a overload of information. Because I want to go into and give you a list of a lot of the different things. I'm also going to give you the hands-on, very, very brief. This is how you do it. So top of funnel, again, as Lasse mentioned in the previous pillar, it's the activities of generating leads. And again, I saw someone in the comment field that said, finally someone that doesn't call booking a discover called Leadgen, because it's not. The activities of generating leads are what basically fills the top of the funnel, that brings someone into the funnel that you can basically nurture, convert, and engage with over time. Here you have cold email, cold calling, SEO, so ranking on Google. So if someone search on, let's say, your company on Google or keyword on Google, you show up. LinkedIn outreach, which is connecting with someone on LinkedIn, LinkedIn content, sharing things organically, and also paid advertising. Again, I don't say that this is the list and all there is to it, but these are just a couple of ones that we wanted to highlight. Because again, we're on the clock, we have a limited time, and we want to be able to go through the Q&A without bringing this far into the evening for those of you who are in Europe, or take too much of your morning if you are in the States. So now into each different one. So I'm going to try to make this digestible. So cold calling, basically picking up the phone. An easy way you can do this is that you can go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So one of the premium features that they have. You can find your audience. You can use the tool we have, and there's plenty of others as well. We use Bureau Leads. We extract that search, and we're able to find a phone number of between 5 and 25% of those people. So imagine you have a search with 10,000 people, 10,000 within your ICP, your ideal customer profile, the decision maker you need to talk to. You have quite a lot of numbers to pick up and call if you find up to 25% of those. That's 2,500. What would happen if you cold called 2,500 people? Probably there will be some business on it. So that's cold calling. Next is cold email. Cold email is basically you find someone, you send them an email, and it's unsolicited. So they don't know who you are. It's the first time they get to know you, and there's plenty of ways of doing this. The two go-tos are ask for permission to share something valuable, or two, ask your questions to engage in a discussion. Don't pitch, don't sell, don't give any links, anything like that. That is just going to direct to spam, and you're going to ruin your reputation. The way you do cold email, at very surface level, you buy 10 domains. You never want to send cold email on your main domain because it's going to ruin that domain in terms of sending. You buy that, for example, from Portbun. You set them up in Use Relay. It's a service you can Google it to get inboxes. So this is basically an email address you can send an email from. You scrape 10,000 people off of LinkedIn or using software called Apollo, and you send email campaigns. Again, same type approach, ask for permission or ask a genuine question. You follow up those who respond, you add them to your CRM and pipeline, and you book meetings. And that's pretty much it. Again, that's the top of funnel. And of course, there's plenty of things that we are going to do bottom of funnel and middle funnel. LinkedIn outreach is another thing. This is something that I personally have been doing since the past 8 years. And it's changed dramatically since I started. But this is basically, again, where you find your target audience on LinkedIn. You use Sales Navigator, you use the filters, and personally, again, I use Bureau Leads to extract those profiles so that I have them in a CSV list. I take that list of prospects, I add it to a software called Get Sales, which I connect my LinkedIn profile to, and it allows me to automatically send invitations and send messages in a campaign and a sequence I can define. Once I set that up and start it, I'm basically going to lean back, and the automation is going to do its course. And I'm going to just follow along on my inbox on LinkedIn to see who accepts and who responds to that campaign. And that allows me to then do those conversations and drive those dialogues towards a meeting. Again, very simplified, but it's a limit to how much into detail I can go, and we can go in this live training. Next is LinkedIn content. This is, in a nutshell, you post valuable content on LinkedIn. Like this event is one of them, for example. How you do it is that you map your methodology and your offering. So basically, you create a resource that is valuable, that caters to your methodology, but also addresses maybe 2 to 3 or maybe 5 different key problems and challenges your target audience is facing. And you post that on LinkedIn. You post, this is the thing that I created, and this is the value, this is what it contains, and comment X to receive it. You can then connect the tool called LeadShark, and the founder of LeadShark, Rosgar, amazing guy. But LeadShark, what they do is that it connects to your LinkedIn profile, and it allows you to extract all of those comments so that you can send a DM or a message on LinkedIn directly to them with the resource. You can also connect this to Get Sales, but then again, I don't want to go too technical in this live training. Of all that you basically that comments, you can connect those to your CRM system and your pipeline, and drive basically conversations to meetings, basically on everyone that commented on something you have. So that's LinkedIn content. And this, for example, is super, super powerful. Paid ads is the next one. And this, again, just running paid advertising. Personally, for B2B, I prefer Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. And that might be an odd take. LinkedIn is way more expensive, so you can come way further with running ads on Meta. The way you do it, very simplified, is, again, you create 3 to 5 different resources. That could be guides, ebooks, webinars, presentations, it doesn't really matter. Something valuable. You run an ad for that, and you send everyone from the ad to a landing page. A landing page is basically a sign-up page. Like sign up with your name, email, and phone number to get access to it. And once they opt in, they get to a thank you page or confirmation page. There it says you're going to receive the resource on email, and it's also going to pitch maybe an application, a wait list, or a booking. And that's that. So all of those that opt in receives the confirmation email with the resource, and then you have your team follow up on email and phone, and you drive those conversations to meetings. So that was top of funnel. Again, I'm just going to take a break if there are a couple of questions, because I know this is a lot. Like it might feel like you have a fire hose straight at your face, like overloaded information. But I did warn you.
I'm trying here to keep track of the comments that are coming in, but I don't know, again, new software, first time streaming on LinkedIn. So like I'm trying to see it from my phone now because my computer didn't want to update. Mohammed, can we have a copy of this slide? Yes, we'll fix that. I see Domenico asking if it's recorded. It is. Now I see when I answer the questions that we get a lot of new questions to cover here. How do you set up targeting in Meta? We will get to that. It's custom audiences that we set up with Encharge. Let me see if we have any other rapid fire things we should answer to.
What does all of this cost? Is Rohini? Typically, if you take the entire setup that we have, it costs you maybe between $100 and $200 a month to have all of the software, all of the automation, everything integrated and working automatically. But I think I want to then save more of the questions to the end into the Q&A. So I just want to highlight that again. If you stick around all the way to the end, we're going to have a dedicated Q&A session. We're going to go through all of the questions. And of course, again, this is going to be recorded. And we're also going to share the slides to those of you that we're able to share it with. But we're going to look at those of you guys that want that slide. Maybe even we're going to make a comment and like reply to this or like this if you want the slides. But then again, we're going to get to that later. Next up, middle of funnel. So as Lasse mentioned earlier, these are the activities that are to nurture the leads. So basically, how can we expand the, let's say, how large portion of the world someone is in that we quote unquote occupy? But that's a negative word, but you get the point. So you have newsletter, bootcamp sequence, evergreen email sequence, and evergreen retargeting. I'm going to go into each of these, but again, there are plenty of other ways to nurture leads. Newsletters. One thing that we've been experimenting on for the past year is running an fully automated newsletter. But that's not what I'm talking about now. A newsletter is basically where you write a weekly email that you send to all people that come from your top of funnel. So basically everyone that comes from LinkedIn, ads, inbound, everything. And you make it valuable, which is a very important thing. You include resources, assets, news, updates, and often a call to action here and there as well. And those would be, let's say, book a call, sign up, an application, but you send something on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. You can define the cadence that is valuable, and that is the important thing. Through that, over time, reciprocity bias builds, authority builds, credibility builds, but also trust. And that's when the sphere expands in the total circle. Then you have bootcamp sequence. And I want to kind of like define what this is. So how we do this is that you identify, again, the top 3 to 5 problems your audience has. You create a guide or a resource addressing each of those, and you send those on email and as ads to all leads from the top of funnel, starting 7 to 14 days after the initial process ended. And the goal here is to identify this and segment the audience based on what they're interested in. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say that you reach out to someone on LinkedIn. You have this campaign connecting, sending message, and following up. Let's say 7 to 14 days after the follow-up is done, you want to and then enroll them into this bootcamp sequence. So it's the initial thing that happens after your top of funnel, because again, it's the middle of funnel. So by running this, you can have people actually tell you by their action and engagement what they're interested in. So a lot of people talk about signals here and signals there. Engagement and interest is far more valuable than that. Next up is evergreen email sequence. if you have read the B2B protocol that we have or watched a walkthrough earlier, you might recall this, but I'm going to go through it anyway. So evergreen email sequence is the last bit. So it's what's happened after the bootcamp. So bootcamp is kind of like the initial nurturing. Evergreen is the infinite nurturing after that. And what this basically is that you can use the 9 types of content that we have, create 50 different emails, which is, again, value first, value first, value first. That's the most important thing. And add them to an infinite loop in our email system. For that, we use Encharge. I'll also mention that again in a by sentence before I continued, with a 3 to 7 day delay between the emails. And with that, you will have up to a year of an infinite looping email sequence that is designed to nurture your audience. And if you have a question about the 9 types of content, it could be, or I'm going to give you an example first. Most businesses only focus on 2. Those 2 are a call to action or a sales message, which is like buy now, sign up, register. And number 2 is social proof. Like, look at my case study here, look at my client here, and look at my this there. Those 2 are the only ones most people use. If you have 50 of those, people are going to get sick and tired. The reason why we have 9 is to have variance and also tap into trust, credibility, and that the audience knows you. And to do that, you have personal story being the 3rd. You have methodology being the 4th. You have behind the scenes being the 5th. You have PR being the 6th. Like, you have other types of content that you can vary so that the variance in what people see is wider and it's bigger. And that's what makes people, let's say, stand receiving so many emails over so long time, because it serves a purpose. Again, the foundational strategy needs to be in place. Next up is the evergreen retargeting. And this is basically where we personally, we use Encharge. It's an email automation system. You can find it at encharge.io. We send all leads from the top of funnel. So everyone from LinkedIn outreach, LinkedIn content, ads, cold email, cold calling, everything into Encharge. And we send those to Meta. And we segment leads based on ads and email engagement. So if someone has clicked a couple of our other ads or opened a couple of emails, we segment them based on cold, warm, and hot. Meaning, the more they engage, the more ads they see. The less they engage, the less ads they see. But it's automatically set up to ramp people up and ramp people down, depending on how much they engage in a certain timeline. So if you engage a lot the next 4 days, you're going to get ramped up. If you stop engaging, you're going to get ramped down. And this is basically a system that you set it and forget it, and you can run it for $5 a day on ads. And everyone in your audience is going to see the ads, and everyone in the audience is going to go through and be nurtured as time goes on. And that's the evergreen retargeting. Let's take a breath again. That was a lot. That was the middle of funnel, plenty of information, a lot of strategies, fire hose of information to your face. Now let's get into the bottom of funnel. So one final stretch. So stay with me here. The bottom of funnel has the purpose, as Lasse mentioned, to convert leads. There are 3 main ways we do this, at least how we approach it. It's through engagement segmentation, meaning someone that basically clicks on an ad, they get sorted into a certain category, meaning they're hot, and then we bring them through. But they're also the self-sorting scoring system, which again is the cold, warm, hot, just to simplify it. Then you also have the call to actions from the middle of funnel, and then conversations. So engagement segmentation, we automatically create segments in Encharge, so the email system, of cold, warm, and hot, based on the engagement someone has on email and on ads. So if someone clicks a lot of emails or clicks a lot of ads, they get ramped to the different, closer to the hot. So I mentioned the automatic scaling up and automatic scaling down, because we want to set it and forget it system. And when a person, let's say, enters the hot segment, we can then send a manual email. We want to add them to the pipeline. Maybe we ping the salespeople so that they should follow up manually. We can even add this person. So let's say Lasse was the lead. We can even add Lasse to the audience of a manual or an automated outreach on LinkedIn, sending him a DM like, hey Lasse, you're a very hot lead that we have currently, you engage a lot, and then you can start a conversation. Again, follow up based on engagement, and you give people score, you segment them, cold, warm, hot. This gives you a lot of things to ensure that you pick up and follow up manually or even automatically the correct leads at the correct time. Next one is the call to actions, or the CTA, from the middle of funnel. So middle of funnel content has these calls to actions, like submit this application, booking here, the form submission there, etc. We want to follow up these. And these leads should be added to a pipeline or some sort of system so that the internal team get pinged when it happens, so that they can follow up in an appropriate time. And here, if that happens, time and delay is of the essence. You want to follow up as soon as fast as possible. And hopefully this makes sense. The last one is through the setup of modules that you might have, outbound, email, it doesn't really matter, you will have conversations. And you want to follow up those conversations, and you want to never forget those you, let's say, in conversation on LinkedIn or on conversation with in an email thread. Ensure that they get followed up. You can provide them more value, more resources. If they go cold, they don't respond in a while, if you create a resource or an asset, send it to them. Like, hey, John, it's been a while since I heard from you. Since we spoke last, I created this resource which addressed one of the 3 things that you highlighted when we spoke last. I hope you find value in it. Provide value. Again, value first. You can't provide too much value. Too much value just builds a higher authority, more credibility, and more trust. So do that until the content converts them, or they come to you directly. Of course, you can always just, let's say, nudge them, ask them a question, or just like poke them a bit in terms of, would you be ready for something? But ensure that you follow up through the conversations, because that's likely where the shorter, let's say, sales cycle comes from. So to give you a summary, for the top of funnel, cold calling, cold email, SEO, LinkedIn outreach, LinkedIn content, and paid advertising. There's a lot of other things as well, but those are, let's say, the key points. And the purpose of those is to get leads into the funnel. For the middle of funnel, you have newsletter, the bootcamp sequence, evergreen email sequence, and email or evergreen retargeting. To have this set it and forget it nurturing system that is standardized, as Lasse mentioned in pillar 1 as well, the top can change, but middle and bottom should primarily stay the same. Because if you change that up all the time, it's going to be hard to find the correlation between cause and effect. And the bottom of funnel is the engagement segmentation with the self-sorting ads, the scoring system, the call to action from the middle of funnel, and conversations. So there's plenty of ways we bring people through, but once you have this in place, it's going to allow you to have way more structure and just like system to this all. And that brings us to pillar 3, because this has been a lot. It's been probably a bit of overwhelm. It's been a lot of different things, a lot of things to, let's say, just chew on and, let's say, sink in. But what I want to do is that I want to give you real world examples. I want to take the funnel, the components, and put them together into a couple of examples. There are 2 examples that I want to give. Because now you have the map, you have the modules, so let's put them together. So I'm going to call this the LinkedIn content setup. And this is something that several people use. We use it ourselves. And it's basically starting with that you update your profile to have a good headshot and a proper header image on LinkedIn. Too many people have images on their profile on LinkedIn where they're not looking directly into the camera. They're having like 45 degrees to the left, 45 degrees to the right. They're looking up, looking down, or it's blurry. It's better to have a close-up headshot.
Or it's an AI picture is also a new thing, which is still just, you don't seem personal.
Yeah, the important thing when it comes to your LinkedIn profile is you want to be relatable. You want to be personal. You want to be raw, authentic. And just a up-close headshot is more than enough. Don't make a profile picture of you on stage. Make it a headshot. The next thing that you do is that you create a lead magnet post based on your offering and your audience. I gave a bit of introduction to this. You create your asset, something valuable that addresses a problem or talks about your methodology. You post that post on LinkedIn where you set up LeadShark to automatically fetch all commenters and convert those to leads. You send a DM to absolutely everyone with the resource that they commented to receive, and you follow up 3 to 7 days later to engage them in a dialogue. Through that dialogue, you convert them to meetings, and through the conversations on LinkedIn and ads, you book meetings because you have ads on the back end as well. And one thing that I wanted to just highlight in terms of the types of lead magnets, you have ebooks, guides, tutorials, how-to guides, webinars, tools, templates, flowcharts. The list goes on. The format doesn't really matter. What matters is the content. And you can have a lead magnet that is just 2 pages long because it could be a template. So how do you do this? I want to just have this very quick one, bring it together. So again, you create a good profile. Again, I'm not saying that I have the best profile, but I just added mine in here. You create a lead magnet post where you post something, you have an image, you have a post, you see people need to comment to get it. And on this one, it was 30,000 impressions, 14 reposts, and 425 comments. We connected that to LeadShark so that it automated the entire, let's say, extraction of comments, replying to comments, and sending the DM. We follow up all of the conversations on LinkedIn, and we book meetings. That was the easy setup. And one thing that I wanted to highlight for this is when to use it, and not necessarily when to use it, but what you can expect from it. This is built to be a lightweight setup that you can then take after this live training. You can go ahead and do it tomorrow. And this will be generating an inflow of leads. Personally, for us, having set this up and knowing, let's say, how to do it, we're getting between 150 and 300 leads daily from just this. So imagine if you can get that as well. Again, I'm not saying that you will, but that's an option, and that's what we are seeing. And this is also, I wanted to highlight, just this setup is something that Ivar also set up. And I'm not sure if this is the updated metrics. I think he got more than 300 comments now, but this is a post he posted about 24 hours ago. And this is live. If you go to his profile, you can see it. He got 130 plus leads. Now it's probably 150 or 160, 18 reposts, or more than 125 reactions. And this was just using this LinkedIn content approach. Post something, get people to comment, use LeadShark to extract them, and then follow up. And he's getting plenty of conversations with VP in large enterprises. The next setup I want to go through is the LinkedIn outreach setup. So this is then you've gotten the inbound. Now we're going to do the outbound. And it's fairly similar as well. So we start by creating a search in LinkedIn Sales Navigator to find our audience. We extract them with bureau leads. We import them to Get Sales. We set up the campaign in Get Sales to connect and start conversations with those potential clients. We enrich all leads and find their email. We send those that we find an email to Encharge to an evergreen email sequence, or maybe even a bootcamp sequence. We add those leads to Meta and run retargeting ads for $5 a day. And through the conversations on LinkedIn and the ads, we book meetings. And one thing here as well, when it comes to doing direct outreach on LinkedIn, there's primarily 3 ways of doing it. And I only recommend one on maybe the 2. It's a direct pitch. No one likes it. Don't do it. You get them all the time. Everyone hates them. 2, it's question to start a conversation. So this is a genuine question that is not solely focused on I want to sell you, but being genuine, building a relationship. Because that's what LinkedIn started out being. It was a platform to connect and build a network. And the third one, which is our favorite, which is value first. And that is connect with someone, just give them some sort of value. Hey, Simon, I see that you're sales director in this B2B software company. We just created an asset and a tutorial on how we do some sort of, let's say, lead generation sales process. I just thought that you might find it valuable. Here it is. Hope you find value in it. And that's that. You pull back, you maybe follow up 3 to 7 days later saying, hey, what was the biggest takeaway? So let's go into how to do this. So 1, we start by doing a search in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We extract them with bureau leads. We import them to Get Sales. We set up the full campaign in Get Sales. We use the system that we have on the back end to enrich and find their emails and also verify the emails. We add those to Encharge for Evergreen. We add the audience to retargeting on Meta. We run the Meta ads $5 a day, and we book meetings through the conversations on LinkedIn, but also through the ads. And that's that setup. So this system is probably the best system to use if, let's say, you have a very small audience. So you have a very super targeted audience for your B2B company. You have it's maybe 1,000, maybe a couple of hundred globally that you want to reach out to, then this is what I would do. If you have a wider audience and you have let's say something that is more not necessarily mass appeal, but then I would probably start with the inbound or the content first. But there's nothing against doing both. If you have content that goes viral, it's going to be a bit difficult to do the outbound because you're going to use up the sending quota that you have. But this outbound is really, really good, or outreach is really, really good if you have a narrow audience. And there are very specific profiles that you want to talk to. So I want to then do a recap, and also you can feel free to add in here as well. So far, you've gotten the funnel. You have the top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Generating leads, nurturing those leads, and converting them. You have the modules in terms of all of the different tactics, methodologies, and components that you can add into different ones. And you've gotten a couple of examples of the LinkedIn content and LinkedIn outreach. That was a lot.
Yeah,
Or,
so I just want to answer a question for the thing that you went through. Like, we will answer all the questions in the end, by the way. But Harry, you asked if the $5 per day was for each lead. No, that is the budget that you typically need to put into Facebook to reach all of your audience with retargeting over Facebook when you've already extracted them from a different source from the top of funnel, being the entry point. So the retargeting is a part of the middle of funnel that we talked about.
Very important clarification. It's a total budget daily for the entire setup of ads.
Yeah.
And I also say that Mohammed asked a question in terms of which CRM are you using for DM outreach. I think I've used it. I mentioned it plenty of times. Get Sales. It's a system that we use. I probably used 10 different systems for that since I started 8 years ago. And here, this is the funny part of doing something new. Lossless writing on keyboard is ultra loud, so we have to figure that out.
Especially when it's a secret message just over to Harold in the private chat here. Then it wasn't that secret anymore.
No, but I think let's move on. So one thing that we also wanted to bring up in this live training was a calculator. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and bring this up on a new screen. So let's see if we are able to do this. So media, share screen. There you go. No, that was the wrong screen. So let's...
In the meantime, while Harold fixes this, then I can answer your question again, Harry, about how many leads you can retarget with $5 per day. Your CPM should probably be around $5 in itself because you do reach retargetings. Because your purpose isn't to convert them necessarily, it is to just be shown. So with $5 CPM and you spend $5, then you can target 1,000 leads once. If you have 500 leads, you can target them twice, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we got the calculator in place.
Woo! Calculator is up. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to highlight a bit in terms of what the effect of a proper backend in terms of middle of funnel and bottom of funnel could do for you guys. So we wanted to do a estimate in terms of weeks. So let's say how many weeks do we, let's say, want to calculate now as an example for the stream?
Well, I think when we look at this, we need to set proper expectations, which is that the middle of funnel and the bottom of funnel, it's completely useless if you think that this is going to change your business in 2 months. This is a thing which takes time, so I would start with a year. That's a good
52 weeks then.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we've seen on a combination of doing, let's say, both the outbound, the inbound, but the whole mix of it, is that it's very reasonable to, let's say, get a 50 leads on a weekly basis. Like, as I mentioned, we get like 150 to 300 a day, but let's just do 50 a week. We were also going back and forth in terms of depending on, let's say, how niche your audience is and what your criteria are for what the qualified lead is. We set the qualification to be like 40%. With this, we get like 20. And what we've also seen based on benchmarks is that over the next 2 weeks, you should be able to book 10% of those qualified leads, which would then be 2.
Yeah, and just shooting in about the 10% there for the ones of you thinking 10% is a lot. This is using the inbound and the outbound process on LinkedIn, where we actually send value first. So people have consumed your stuff. then it's very likely to have 10% booking rate, even more if you just like make the more valuable your stuff is, the more people will book. Simple as that, out of the qualified people.
Yeah. And what we also added, which is another yellow here box here, is how many meetings are booked after week 2 on a weekly basis, and it's like 0.5%. So if we were to scroll a bit down here, like if you get 20 qualified leads this week, and the backend system will then ensure that 7 of those 20 will be booked over the next 52 weeks. That's the power of conversion when it comes to having a proper backend. If you get 20 qualified leads every week for the entirety of the year, so 52 weeks, the backend will then ensure that you get 360 meetings in total for the next 52 weeks. And by running this system for 52 weeks, you scale from booking 2 meetings the first week to booking 7 meetings in week 52. So we go from booking 2 meetings a week to 7 meetings a week just by running this very simple calculation. And this is based on having a proper backend, like a proper system that nurtures, that provides value, that engages, that segments your audience in a proper way. And that basically highlights, hopefully, the importance of the backend, or this 2 parts, and not chasing the shiny objects of this new tactic or this new system or this new tool or using AI for cold calling just by topping the funnel with more if the way you process those leads are not up to par. So I think with that, we're going to then go back. Hopefully this is going to then work. Oh, I need to replace it again. Replace screen. And there we go. So that was the calculator. So basically that should, we're also going to share that calculator with everyone. And I think actually the very simple way of doing it is that I can drop it in the chat now and ensure that everyone has it.
If you're able to drop it in the chat, I thought that was difficult on the laptop. I needed to bring out my.
Actually,
okay, yeah. That's the reason why Harold is the tech guy out of us.
So with that, you have it, open it, test it. You can make a copy of it, but if you want to, let's say, save it for later and then follow along, because I wanted to ask this question, and we were unsure about how we wanted to present this, but now I want everyone to engage in the chat, because my question to you is, would you want us to share how you could fast track setting up this entire thing in a way that is caters for your business, where you could get both guidance and tools? Like if you want us to, let's say, spend some time now to share how you can do that, go ahead in the chat and comment yes, comment I'm interested, stuff like that, because that's then we can see what we can do, because I don't have, let's say, anything scripted now. I just wanted to add as a question for those of you that actually would, let's say, be interested in more for that. And again, we're a bit behind in terms of the
I've thought of that. That's quite a funny thing that we didn't think of. That now we're just going to sit there and wait for whether anyone wants it in the next what was it, 40 seconds that we're ahead?
Yeah, I think it is 40 seconds we're ahead, 40, 50 seconds, something like that. So we'll see. So it's starting to see a couple of comments. Or actually, people are commenting still on the calculator. So we'll see.
Are they? This was a weird thing where on my interface I can't really see it, so I need to open my phone to see thing. But
yeah. So here we see Frank. Yes, that would be great. Rohini, yes, of course. Aman, yes, of course. Matty, yes, that would be awesome. Nikolai, let's see it fly. Adriana, yes, sure. And Bart had a question in terms of how long would it take to set this up, how much effort to do this. Again, if you were attending when I showed the case of Evite, which got close to 150 leads in the last day, I think he spent a couple of hours on it. And I also have another case that I want to show, but it sounds like people want to see something. What can we share with them also?
Well, I have this thing ready for the few sales calls that I'm doing next week with people for Growth Garden. So let me just see if I can find it here for you. I think that should fit well with this type of structure. Check Messenger now, Harold.
Yeah. So let's see.
Okay, cool. And I promise you, we didn't pay Robert to go in and write that that he recommends working with us and that it's 100% innovative and supportive. That's on his own free will. I hope if Harold hasn't gone behind my back.
No, I have not. I spoke with Robert earlier today, but it was not about that. But okay, so I'm gonna bring up the document you sent me. Hold on. So slideshow. So I believe people should be able to see my screen now. So again, this is a document that's also mentioned that he's been working on for calls that he's going to have next week. So all of these different things, I'm going to skip a couple of them.
It's going to be a bit clunky with you, but you know the basis of the stuff that we can do at least.
Yeah. So again, this is opportunities for those who, yeah, like since you're here, like we're going to skip this. But what I would like to introduce is actually something that we call Growth Garden. And that is a B2B growth hub for SMEs, so basically small and medium enterprises, startups, a bit larger than startups, where you can get tools and guidance. And why Growth Garden? So a lot of the things that we see when it comes to doing these things, like implementing the full protocol, the top, middle, and bottom of funnel, and all of the setups that we've gone through, people stumble, which is understandable because people haven't done this, or they're entering into this for the first time, or maybe they've gone a couple of times. But we've spent a decade refining these strategies and the fundamentals that work across industries, across markets, and we've added that to what we call Growth Garden, so that you don't, let's say, chase short-lived strategies, which Lasse mentioned, in terms of there's a shiny object, everyone jump on the bandwagon and try it, and then it's saturated and it stops working. And then you're stuck at ground zero again in terms of where do I go now? Another shiny object, and you're stuck on this hamster wheel. The next thing is that one of the things that we also do is that we leverage AI and tools to do stuff, so that you can use those instead of having to overhaul your entire setup. You can just plug a couple of those systems in and it works wonders. Because one of the things that we wanted to do, and this is also addressing your question, Bart, which was how long does it take to implement something like this? It could take a couple of hours. It could take a couple of days. It could take a week. But we do it in such a way that it should be plug and play, or it'd be very, very fast and very, very straightforward. And also integration, and that is you can enhance what you already do by using what we have, so that you don't need to start from scratch. One of the things that we've been building, and we're going to add that in as well, is systems that can draft and create assets for you, so that you can, let's say, speed up the creative creation process. But the next slide then would be, there's basically 3 pillars to Growth Garden. You have community, which is where you can connect, share wins, access real-time support in Discord, which is what we use. You have guidance, which has basically we have calls 2 times a week where you can join, you can ask questions, nothing is off the table, and it's like a rapid-fire work session. And tools, like we have our internal Growth Garden platform where you can automate lead generation, you can do enrichment, email verification, and content ideas and content creation. There's plenty of things down in the roadmap. I'm going to go through that and hopefully, or we'll see what you added into the presentation also. So community is one, and that is basically we have a Discord community where you can ask questions, you can get help, you can get feedback, you can send your resources, you can post your LinkedIn post, and we're going to engage with it to give it a boost. And there are resources and libraries and directories of content and templates and automations you can copy and paste. You have guidance, where we jump on a call. For example, this Tuesday or earlier today, we had a call and we went through how to do a lot of the in-depth things that we've talked about in this presentation on live training, in terms of how do you integrate with meta ads? How do you segment your leads? How do you find people on LinkedIn? How do you extract them? We go into those, and like you share your screen, you let me remote control, and I'm going to click around and I'm going to do stuff for you. So that's basically what the guidance it looks like. And then you have the tools. And I give a bit of a, let's say, heads up to that and mention it already. In terms of the Growth Garden platform that we have now, you can add your business, add your ICP or your target audience. You can generate ideas for lead magnets. You can automate lead enrichment, verification, and more. And there's plenty more things to come. And the thing there is that it's unlimited use to everyone that is in Growth Garden. And I also just want to highlight that now. Me telling about this doesn't mean that you will, this is something that you will get into. I'm just wanting to give you information about this, and then we can see if it is the right fit. And then on from this, we have a roadmap. So one thing that we can see is we have plenty of things planned in terms of automatic qualifier, automatic research, creating content, bootcamp series generator. So for creating that bootcamp, evergreen sequence generator is something that we're also planning, like audience lookalike, internal lead database, LinkedIn auto posts. A lot of different things are planned. And I also wanted to highlight a couple of the examples. So Ivar, you already seen this, so you can see that here. Here's Felix. That I believe I showed Felix in the very beginning.
Yeah, you
and
mentioned
then
Felix to start off with, yeah.
Yeah, then you have James, as you can see here. He has a very, very small audience, like very, very targeted. And he sent me a message saying that this has made wonders for his sales process. Actually, I think he just sent this to me yesterday. So you might not actually have heard that even, Lasse, in terms
I
of
would have added it.
If you would have added it. Okay, yeah. Where it's changed his approach entirely. Like he's sent several proposals every single week just by having a couple of those posts. And you can see those are like 37 and 38 comments. So not viral like Felix or Ivar's, but like very tiny audience, very targeted audience, and he's seeing great results from it. And there's two tiers to this. It's the regular, where you have the 2 calls a week, Discord community, and access to the tools and templates and Growth Garden platform. Then we have the Plus, which is 1 hour one-to-one call coaching monthly, either with myself or Lasse. You have priority in the Q&A calls on Tuesdays and Wednesday or Fridays, so the 2 we have a week. And you can bring your plus one. So if you have a partner, a co-founder, and another employee that you want to bring, you can bring them in as well. And it's $250 a month and $500. So what I'm going to try to do now is, let me see. Again, new platform, a bit difficult to see how I can add it. Is
what type of link do you have, Harold? Because an important distinction is also what we said with showing this, that we right now have 15 people in Growth Garden and we have 20 slots for the beta access. This is not some sleazy sales tricks or anything. If there's 10 people of you that want it, then 10 people of you would get it if we have a conversation and feel that it's a fit. But the first 20 come in as grandfather members, basically, since they started with us first, and have these set prices at $250 and $500 for life, as long as they stay on. While after we've filled up the first 20, then it's going to increase to $300 per month for regular and $600 per month for plus as the first increase there. So
yeah,
like we don't want to do any like sleazy sales tactics or anything like that, but that's what we set out for when we started Growth Garden in early January, and that's what we're sticking to, because we've already told like all of the people that have started that it's the first 20 that gets this rate, and then we improve it. So
yeah.
if you're interested in this, then I think Harold added some links here. Those are not payment links or anything. They're basically just interest forms, so that we know that you're interested in this. And then we'll do a call with you, or not necessarily a call, but just some chat to basically talk and make sure that your audience is something that fits here, and that you're a decent human being as well that fits in with the group that we already have. Regarding that, before we jump into the like general Q&A, then I'm seeing the questions that pop up here. Mate, first and foremost, you should charge more, just saying. I can't say anything else than, of course, I would love to charge more, and we most definitely will at some point. But we're, as said, like we were doing this with the first 20 people now as like grandfather members or beta members, just so that we can build out the product before we start having like actually like access to it online. Because right now you can only get a link through us, while in some time, at least when we filled up the first 20, then Mate, so would you like to pay for my access, please? Okay, but
Yeah.
now you've set yourself up. But yeah, the first 20 is what we've aimed at getting in at this price point, and then obviously the prices will increase over time. Another, I don't know, can you see the name of the guys that have LinkedIn user in our stream, Harold? Do they have a different name in LinkedIn?
Okay. So Rohini asked if you could pay. So again, in terms of how it works, it's on a rolling basis. It's month by month. But again, there should be a QR code on the screen and also a link in the chat to just an interest form. Again, just if it's of interest, go ahead, tell us which one, and that's that. I think with this, we're going to move on to the not in terms of having the banter back and forth in the chat, but we're actually going to go back to the main presentation because we are now going to move over to the final part of the event and live training today, which is the Q&A. So now we're ready for your questions. If you have any questions, go ahead, fire at will, add them to the comments, and we're going to go through them. And what we're also going to do is that we're going to bring them up on the screen so that you guys can see them directly on the stream as well, so that it is shown.
How do you do that?
So it's a chat overlay. So again, new tool, fancy features.
Okay.
So let's see. So again, the funny thing when we're a bit like 40 to 60 seconds delayed. So I got the first question.
We also have other questions we haven't answered, so we should probably go back in time. But starting with Ebba, about not having a budget for Leadgen right now, then as we talked about, Leadgen is just the entry to the funnel, so the top of funnel. And when doing that, then basically the outbound that you can set up on LinkedIn, obviously a dime, you need like at least $100 for the software accesses to set things up. But you should be able to run outbound campaigns on LinkedIn or inbound, which are basically free except for the software. And then the rest of the funnel, the middle of the funnel and the call to action is just infrastructure. So there you just need to set up the stuff. So you can read the guides that we have on how to do it and stuff. And then obviously if you want hands-on help, then we just show the growth garden. But in your case, if you don't have a dime right now, it's probably not the best option.
I see the next question from, where did it go? From Aman. Is there a way to do this for SaaS without having to talk to customers one-on-one?
I think I should possibly answer Aman since I talked with him yesterday over message, so I know the case there. Yes, so for SaaS, if you want to sell people on a an automatic way, then the way you would set things up is inbound is the way that you would sell things automatically, because outbound, then you're always going to have to kind of prove your value in some sort. But you can do inbound where you create guides. I know for context for the rest of you, Aman has now I might mess it up while I'm alive here, but he has an AI voice calling type of solution for customer support. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, Aman, in the comments. But in that case, I would make different guides on how companies can automate their customer support and how they can save X amount of money, or how they can do it at Y cost, etc. Look at Make UGC on LinkedIn. They do a lot of this right now. I know Ruskar, who's in here in the chat, has been doing it a little bit with lead magnets that he set up as well for LeadShark, where basically one of the steps in the guide that you create, that you send as a part of the lead magnet, is just sign up for a free trial here, or test it out in this way, etc. And that way you can have people signing up automatically. And then I would keep the one-on-one calls something that you do with the larger leads that you get in there.
Yeah.
I don't know the other guys, Harold, so you can take some of them.
Yeah, so I'm going to do Dr. Hans and Georg. As I have only minor resources to create content and lead magnets on a regular basis, what do you recommend? Ads or more bottom of funnel? Thank you. So, Dr. Hans, what I would do is, so this is something that we talk a lot about in Growth Garden, actually, in terms of how do I create the resources? How do I create the content? It's a bit of a churn. It's a bit of, let's say, where do I start? What I always look at in the very beginning is what's the foundational process that you have. So again, I'm not sure if you have a product, if you have a service, or what you specifically offer. But the essence is there's always a problem your audience has, right? Like every business exists to solve a problem. Like if you can then go into what different solutions of that problem could be, either through that positioning yourself as an authority or linking your product, linking your services, or some sort of way of, let's say, embedding what you do into it, that's a way to create the resources. There are ways, for example, Lasse created a post about the methodology we have to create lead magnets and the actual content in less than 60 minutes on his profile, I think a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Because you can use AI, like you can use ChatGPT, you can talk with ChatGPT and get the resource created like 95% done in less than 60 minutes if you do it correctly. Having said that, when it comes to bottom of funnel, like often the things that you or middle of funnel, often the things that you use to nurture your audience is the content that you can put in the top of funnel as the lead magnets. So it kind of is the same. For bottom of funnel, what you can definitely do, you can run ads, like direct call to actions. Only people that, let's say, reach bottom of funnel is added to the ads, and you can do it that way. But there's plenty of ways to spin it. But I think that's the way I would answer it, depending on the limited information I just have right now.
Yes, Bart was also asking, Harald, I don't know if it showed up in Restream that we're using here, but I see it, that he's asking us, but it's your thing, so it's not really on me, but to tell a bit more about the research agent that you posted about.
Yeah, I can't see it in Restream, so I can't show it on the screen. But yeah, so the research agent is basically a system that we're building, and it's going to be in early access soon. I can't guarantee anything because tech takes time, and debugging and like building the thing takes short time, but then debugging and fixing errors takes time. What it's meant to do is that you can ask it to, you basically input 3 different things. You're going to input what do you want to research or what do you want to find. You can input in terms of how wide and deep you want it to research. So this is kind of like the more advanced settings, where you can define how many pages, how many sites, how wide of things do you want the agent to go on and research. And what it's just then going to do is that it's going to run its cycles and fetch more data, learn based on that data to see if it's figured out what you actually asked it about. And then once it says and thinks that it's done and fulfilled your request, then it's going to come back with an aggregated, let's say, properly written out and structured report that you're going to get back. So it's mostly meant for, let's say, deeper research. And one of the things that I asked in terms of when I posted a post yesterday was what people are going to use it for. So I have like 20, 30 people that said specific use cases, and we're going to try to cater for those when we actually finalize the first version to go into early access. But I'm going to post about it again. I'm going to follow up everyone once it is in early access and people can get access to it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Next question that I see is from Spencer Clark. Obviously now you picked a different question, Harold, but I will answer Spencer first. So regarding whether it would be possible to add all the elements of realistic costs to our calculator, the software that we have, Growth Garden and ad retargeting, etc., to enable you to establish if our approach would be a good fit. Okay, so to break down the cost of it, the Growth Garden, you obviously saw, like we can add these to a calculator as well, obviously. But that's 250 or $500 if you're within the next 5 people. So until we're at 20, as we talked about. And charge, I think, isn't it like $99 per month, Harold?
Yeah, it depends if you have if you sign up for an annual subscription, then you get for lower, then you get like 10% off at like 79 or 89, but it's 99 a month, and that will hold that will hold for a long time.
For that sake, also shooting in that in Growth Garden, we also have such a thing where if you sign up like 12 months, I think you get a discount, as of discounting things on annual. Ad retargeting, as we said, like it's a stretch to think that you'll use more than $5 per day, meaning $150 per month. You don't even need to use those $5 like for the retargeting. It's probably going to be enough with a couple. But yeah, we can probably add it to the calculator. But if I were to just do my math like on the top of my head, then estimate that you spend like $70 on the ad retargeting. Get sales is $70 as well, I think. So 140 and charge 100, so $240. And if you want Lead Shark to also do organic posting, I think that's 40 more. Riska might shoot in the chat if I'm wrong. So that's at 280, and then Growth Garden is either 250 or 500. So your whole setup for all you need marketing-wise is at 530 or $780 per month. Then you don't even need a person to come in and do so, because we would just show you how to do the infrastructure and set it up. So you like that's software costs, ads, and someone to help you with it included. Daniel asks if we can unpack Growth Garden packages in much detail, please. Okay, do you want to take that, Harold? First of all, we need to interpret like specifically what you mean, Daniel, but we'll try our best.
Yeah, so if I understand it correctly, Daniel, what you asked about is what does the different packages include and what does it mean, what it will give you. So if we take the Growth Garden regular first, which is the 250 a month, the 250 a month will give you 3 main things, so 3 pillars, you could say. It will give you access to the Discord community, which is the place where we share resources. You can come with, let's say, feature requests for tech and automations and systems you need. All templates we have will be added in there as well, but the community is basically where you can connect with people. For example, Robert, or earlier today when we had a call, it was Robert, it was Jason, and it was Trevor on. And funnily enough, Robert asked a question where it made sense for him to talk to Jason about something and Trevor about something, because each of those two were experts at different things, and he needed help from both of them. So then it was the connectivity of the connections and the community. The second thing you get is the weekly calls. So currently there's 2 calls a week. Both of them are with me, and there's no questions off the table. So it's basically we join together on Zoom. You can go through, ask your questions. We're going turn by turn, one person by person, and we brainstorm, we chat, I give feedback, I help with technical setup, and basically, again, it's a work session that we sit together and we do stuff. The third thing is the Growth Garden platform that we have. That is the internal proprietary tech that we build in Bureau, which originally is planned to take us closer to the long-term vision that we have, which is 100% autonomously run businesses with AI. So AI that runs your business for you. All of the tech that we build towards that vision is going to be added to that proprietary platform. That is currently, you add the details about your company. It will then generate ideas for lead magnets for you. It's going to be able to draft the actual content of lead magnets and the post for them so that you can do the LinkedIn content approach. It will also give you an email enrichment system currently, and email verification. We're going to add lead, a lot of other features as well, and I won't go into too much details for those because they're not ready yet. But it's going to be a suite of tools and automations and tech that you can use unlimited, because it's all included in the Growth Garden membership for 250. The Plus, which is 500 a month, it includes all the thing in regular, but it also includes a one-to-one call with me every single month, or Lasse, depending on my capacity. It's going to be an hour where we go into everything and whatever it is. It's a work session. You have priority in the weekly calls. So if you have something, you can go first. And the third thing is that you can bring a partner. So if you have someone else in your company, Daniel, or you have a partner, you have another employee that you want to bring, you can bring them as included in the Growth Garden membership, and that's 500. And as Lasse mentioned, it's 250 and 500 until we hit 20, and then the price is going to increase. He said 300 and 600. We'll see if that's going to be what it increases to, but it's going to go up.
I
but
won't allow
hopefully
you to increase it any less, at least. I can say so.
Yeah, so that's going to be the minimum bump. So hopefully that answered your question, Daniel, in terms of that. So if you need help with technical setup, strategy, you want feedback on something, that is all included in the community, but also the weekly calls.
Okay, I see that Rohini has asked a couple of questions now that we haven't been able to get to. So let me take the pleasure of answering for you, Rohini. So you first asked, does your monthly cost cover tools as well, or is that on top? Plus, is your monthly cost on a rolling basis, or is there an annual commitment? So to answer that first and foremost, as I also answered Spencer, then the software that you get, like LeadShark from Ruskar or Encharge and stuff, is obviously something that we can't like get for you, because then we own the IP and stuff of the stuff that you have. So you need to set that up yourself, both because it's not included in the cost, and also because it would be like, it's just a very bad practice to have like some outside consultants actually like owning the software accounts that you're running things off. As for the other question that you had, Winnie, can this system work for multiple brands or products in one portfolio that are targeting different ICPs based on the product? Yes, most definitely. Like, obviously, when I say yes, most definitely, I kind of feel like I sound like a sleazy salesperson, as for like not knowing what you're even doing, really. But as long as you're targeting B2B and your audience is on LinkedIn, then we have you sorted with the strategies that we use here. Because as I said, the middle of funnel and the bottom of funnel is the same no matter what you do. That's just a setup that we do, and then your ecosystem flows. The top of funnel is just different based on what audience you have. So if you have one product where the audience is large companies where there's a really small like piece of them, then you can set up like outbound for them. Outbound, which is way less spammy and pitchy, because if your audience is way smaller, like smaller in terms of amount of companies, then you have a like way larger brand risk. So you can't pitch in the same way. So then you want to do it in a different approach, but it's still caters for that, the system. So like for Growth Garden specifically as well, if you want to use Growth Garden for different products, and that's no problem, as long as you are the person like who's in charge of the, or not in charge, but involved in the different projects, then you are a member of Growth Garden, not necessarily the company. But if you get plus, then you can bring in like another person that maybe is more involved in one of the companies you're involved in. Okay, I see one guy right here, or one guy like I'm seeing in Restream again, that like it just says LinkedIn users. Bart wrote, okay guys, just signed up. I was about to say, okay, who is this? Because like there is no sign up links anywhere. But behind the scenes, then I've already been talking with Bart, so he actually has the sign up link. So I choose to believe him on that. Moving on to the other guys, and of course, Bart, yeah, we will definitely rock starting from Monday. Harry asks, any advice for how to write content for initial LinkedIn post / lead generation? Like it depends on a thing which I've seen, because you might have come from Harold's profile, or you might have come from my profile into this event. And there's two different approaches to making these types of lead magnet posts on LinkedIn. It is when you have a warm account like Harold's, and it is when you have a cold account like mine. And the reason why I'm mentioning warm and cold is that we put out the first lead magnet post. So like again, the new shiny thing back in November on Harold's account, and it got like 500 leads the first post or something like that. And we were just like, okay, this is the easiest thing ever. And then I put out the post, and it got like 1 like from my uncle. Not really, but you get the point. And then we were like figuring out through December, okay, what even is this? Because my account didn't pick up traction at all. And now 3 weeks ago, I started testing another approach to the lead magnet posts for cold accounts. So again, I don't know if your account is cold or not, Harry, but I'm assuming it is because most are. Then you want to create the post to not just be hype posts like the ones that Harold writes, no offense, Harold, but to rather also have some sort of structure to it. And some, like imagine that you write a guide, which is step-by-step, 8 different steps, and then you make a mini version of that guide in the actual post. So you drop the 8 steps and you take out the biggest pieces of gold that you have in that guide and make that into a LinkedIn post, where in the bottom, after they've already read something which is interesting and valuable in 8 steps, then you have, do you want the full breakdown? And possibly like the prompts to make this automatic, or like the, if you do any types of automations, like the JSON files that I use to set this up or whatever, then comment and I'll send you a complete breakdown, walkthrough guide, whatever that is that you've made. But again, no matter what, it's hook to start off with. The hook needs to really sit. And then the body is either just a hype post, like you go look at Harold's post, or it must be some sort of like a breakdown of a strategy. Go look at my post. And then the bottom are the same, like basically just a call to action. So I hope that answered it. Let me see. Aman also.
Another question from Aman.
Yeah, maybe I should just keep on rambling here since I know
Yeah.
Aman. What's the number one thing we should start doing to grow? Doing so many things different can be a bit overwhelming. Most definitely. So when we look at the whole structure again, Aman, with the top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, then the middle and bottom is just some infrastructure that you need to get set up. Like whether you want to go into that and try to make it yourself, or if you want us to help you with it, is obviously on you. But the top of funnel is what brings the leads in. And there you just want to go for like the biggest like shiny object right now. As we said, the biggest shiny object right now for you when you sell a software solution will be to make these types of guides, because you do things which is AI related, which is also like to some extent like sales and revenue like related, obviously with customer support. If you take that angle, then it's more cost reduction related. But like there's so much potential to write posts about that, to share workflows, to share use cases, and just nail down, Aman, like how to write these posts so that you get traction on the profile. And then I think you mentioned you had a co-founder, so just do it from both of you guys' profile, and then use LeadShark to extract these comments, send the resources out with Get Sales, and then just start building the infrastructure to be able to actually nurture these leads over time. That's a primary thing which you should be doing. Like don't think of all of the other structures. When you have the resource in place, then you can look at doing like LinkedIn outbound, automating things as well. Speaking of that, I also saw you wrote earlier how to not get banned. If you use Get Sales and you warm up the account, so meaning you can do 200 requests per week, so you can do max 40 per day if you run them Monday to Friday. You start, if it's a cold account, at like 10, and then you slowly just scale it with like 4 or 5 extra requests per day for every new week that you start. And that way, then your account won't get flagged. Simple as that. Like we haven't really experienced that in years now, that accounts have been flagged on LinkedIn when doing this.
Yeah, we've run, or I personally have run these type of automations on LinkedIn for the past 8 years. I've never experienced bans. I see a lot of people, and I speak with a lot of people, however, that it doesn't respect the limits or the safe limits on LinkedIn, and they're getting banned and right and left all the time. But staying compliant to the sending limits is important. Let's see if there's any other questions here.
Let's see.
So here I have one a bit further up from Ebba in terms of how should we approach in terms of call to action when sending the first cold email. We provide team augmentation service that can be of value content that target audience would be possibly interested in. So you provide team augmentation service. So when it comes to like the cold email, I think, and as mentioned, and when I mentioned it earlier as well, is there's two ways. So one, you have the genuine question, because in a cold email, you don't do any call to actions. Like you ask a question or you ask for permission to share something valuable. The question is either something that relates to the current situation in the business. That could be like, hey, I see that you guys are working within this, or you have this role, and then a question that engages them in a conversation. So something that doesn't sound like spam. And again, people do two things now. They have very, very long AI automated emails that are super, let's say, personalized, but not really personalized, and or they pitch. So having something that contrasts that in terms of a short email, it's like, hey, since you're doing this, how are you approaching this? And that could be one. The second way is leading with value. So again, something very short, very prompt, very to the point in terms of you have an asset, you have a resource that you thought that they might see value in. And if it's all right for them to share it on this email, if this is the best email to reach them in terms of sending said resource. So those would be two ways of doing it, Ebba.
I see we had another question from, what was his name? I lost him here again now. Was it Matt? Let me see. Not Mate, but I think the question was about. Yeah, you see it. I can't find it again now.
Yeah. So Matt, I saw your questions. The 10 domains for cold email. How do you approach the naming strategy? If it's a B2B consulting company for DevOps, for example, would you do DevOps Stexas/D? So like there, I can give you an example. So if I were to do it for us, for example, bureauventures.com is the main domain that we have. I would do go bureauventures.com, try bureauventures.com, test it, and do different variations of that. So add something at the beginning or add something at the end to just have a variance of the brand, but not the main domain. The issue, however, is if you really want to scale cold email, and Trevor mentioned this in the Growth Guide call earlier today, is that if you want to really do cold email infrastructure, you probably have to invest like $500 to $600 a month to just have the setup, because you need to have a lot of domains and you need to do a lot of volume. Because cold email is a bit like finding the perfect fishing spot. Like you need to test to figure out what lures, what is the spot, how do they handle it and stuff like that. But it does work, as Mike mentions in the comments as well. But you just need to figure it out. But for naming, what I would do is I would actually just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me 50 different variations of my brand company domain, and the purpose is cold email. So I just want to have something that doesn't change the brand name, but add something to it so that I can buy domains for this. Again, we can use AI for so much, and often, like personally, if I'm curious about something, I just ask AI. And the modules just get better and better. So I think that's how I would do it, Matt.
I see. Do we have any other questions in here now? Yes, Aman, is there a good way to find validated content? Yes, so validated content probably shows up in your feed all the time, Aman, and especially if you're into AI, as I guess you are based on the conversations that we've had as well, then you probably get things which are relevant to AI in your content as well. So you can take the stuff which is there and use it to basically see the structure and what type of things that people are already interested in. But just please make your own twist to it. Like we have people who copy our content all the time as well. And it's just, I don't know, like you can do it if that's your way of doing things. But I kind of get like I don't bother to message them and be like angry or upset, because it's free game on the internet. But it's kind of like, a kind of a bad move to just take other stuff. But go look at what types of topics engage people. I know, like as as I mentioned for you yesterday, one of Harold's friends on LinkedIn, Roberto Luna, really like skilled dude in like setting up things both like no code and code wise, which if you look at his content, he has a lot of engagement. Do not copy it, but check out what type of what types of topics that are the most interesting, and then just make your twists on it with your solutions. And as we talked about, like make the guides ideally so that people can sign up through the guide. Because if you get 100 people to read through the guide, then you will have signups.
I do see another question here,
Okay.
and that it was a bit of time ago from Maria. Would you use these tactics on brand accounts? So in terms of, let's say, if I understand it correctly, in terms of using, let's say, the outbound campaigns, you want to do and run those from your LinkedIn profile. Because if you want to reach out to someone and start a conversation with someone, you won't accept a connection request from a company page. So the person or the personalization and intimacy that comes from that is the most important thing. I'm going to see if there's a couple of other questions a bit up here as well that we haven't covered.
This is also a ping to all of you guys who are left, that if you have more questions now that you want to get answers to, then put them in now, since we have a little bit of delay from the things that we say until you hear them. Because if nothing starts like coming in, then we will probably make it a day soon.
Yeah. And one thing that I also wanted to highlight as well is we go through these questions on a weekly basis, daily basis inside the Growth Garden. So if that is something that you would be interested in, like you have the QR code on the screen, but I'm going to ensure that you have the link to the application form again. Again, by applying doesn't mean that, okay, yes, I'm all in, I want to commit to it. By applying, you show interest, and we're going to have a call. That call can turn into, okay, let's see if it's a match for you. Or if it's not a match, it's going to be a casual chat where we give you some recommendation and we have some dedicated time together. So again, I want to drop that as well.
Yeah, I can also say out of I don't know, it's kind of counterintuitive to say in a process where we obviously want to sell slots for it. But if you already know that this is the thing that you need, then don't bother even taking a call with me or Harold. Just do the form. If you have us, like you probably have either of us on LinkedIn, just message us and say that you really want in, and then we'll look through whether that you're a good fit. And that's basically it.
So there's still no new questions in the chat. So I think we're going to stay around for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Yes. Let me, in the meantime, give my girlfriend, who's having a podcast now, her microphone back, so that she can record that properly. So I'll just unmute for a second while you see if there's anything more that comes in.
Yep. So I see people have to leave again. Hopefully this has been a interesting stay. We went way over time because you guys had so many questions, and we were, let's say, a bit delayed in the start. Been some technicals on the way as well. But for you 30 still sticking around, 1 hour and 45 minutes.
You're the real ones. Like, yeah, you're the guys that we do this for.
Yeah, we can sit here for way longer, but we would love some questions. So if you have any questions, add them in the comments, and we can go through. If you don't have any questions, Mike, I missed the majority of the presentation, guys. Any way I can get the recorded version? Yes. So again, we hope that the tool that we're using to stream this saves it, but it should. But there will also be, I believe, the full video and replay will be on the events page once we wrap it up. So another one. Yeah. A final thing is, if people want to, let's say, continue the Q&A, as I mentioned, do the application form, show your interest, and we're gonna have a 30-minute call, and nonetheless, probably, and then we can talk about anything and everything.
Why do you keep asking them to get on a call after they've filled it in? I said, like, if you're ready for it, then just go for it, and then we save our time if you already know that this is the thing that you need, like, for the ones of you listening.
I'm giving them a loophole to, let's say, skip the queue and get the calls with us, but
yeah.
Okay,
yeah, that's I really like the automation workflow of getting people to join the event. That's nice to hear, Daniel. Like we had quite a like it was more or less like a mess from our end to set up that way, because you probably just got things once then, but there's sending limitations in LinkedIn when you go too viral. So our problem, like, this is like an ooh thing for us to sit and say to you guys who want to learn B2B lead gen, but we can't send enough stuff. So we're trying like all we can to like to collect as many emails that we have to actually send out and give people the stuff that they have, and to like share stuff in many different ways. But still appreciate the kind words.
One thing that I also wanted to share in, like, if you guys want us to, let's say, do another one of these live trainings about any sort of, let's say, specific topic or anything like that, like, feel free to just add the things that you want us to do a live training on more specifically in the comments as well. And we're probably going to do one or more of these as well, because I can only speak for myself, but I've really enjoyed it, and you guys have had a lot of questions. It's been great to be able to give you some answers and help you guys through the 1 hour and 47 minutes that we've been on so far.
And then there's 40 seconds until anyone
tries
it.
And 40.
No, but I have to agree. I like the format. Like I started thinking here that this could be like a frequent thing that we do, because it's just generally simple to answer, like the same questions as what was mentioned here just like some minutes ago, that we need the Q&A page. Yeah, maybe we do. We probably also just need to do more of these in general to just streamline our sales calls for the stuff that we do as well.
Yeah, I see a question, and it's from Dr. Hans Georg. You have any lead magnet / top of funnel ideas for Salesforce service provider focus on AI or Agentforce? So when it comes to anything AI in sales, it's actually quite interesting, because you can create any sort of resource that talks about how to create the Agentforce or the AI, how to do sales, the methodology, and how you train the AI in terms of what the prompting is like. It could be just sales psychology. It could be anything of that type of sort. And that could be the thing. It could be a benefit of how Salesforce works as the CRM on the back end to, let's say, aggregate all data in terms of how to do accurate sales processes. There's plenty of ways to spin it. Like anything and everything which are the components of the delivery and that setup could be a lead magnet. I'm going to give you an example on Scary. On this training, we've talked about the top, middle, and bottom of funnel. We can make the top of funnel as its own lead magnet. We can create the middle of funnel as its own lead magnet. The bottom of funnel as its own lead magnet. We can create the LinkedIn outreach as its own lead magnet, as we already have the LinkedIn content as its own lead magnet. Again, every piece, a bit and piece to the system and setup and delivery can become its own lead magnet. And you can share, because if it's a technical setup, it's no issue having a system that, let's say, need your component to it. You can share it because they need a component nonetheless. Hopefully that answered your question.
Ebba asks if we can do a session on LinkedIn outreach. I think we can do that. We have like some interesting takes on how to do that specifically nowadays, since it's value first, and I still don't see anyone who actually does value first LinkedIn outreach. So it could probably be an interesting topic.
Yeah. Any final questions now for you guys? or we're gonna wrap it up in a minute here. Again, then we wait a minute before any comments come. But
it would be cool if we actually got, like, I don't know if we did anything wrong to have this lag or what it was. But it would have been, yeah, cool to just have it in lifetime. We would have saved a bit of minutes in the end.
yeah, I cannot see anything yet. Did you guys test out each content as well? Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and answer?
Yeah, so I talked about a little bit about this like 10 minutes ago, Daniel, with like the main type of content that can get your account to actually be warm and get followers on LinkedIn. Right now, it's just resource posts or lead magnet posts, such as the ones you've been seeing me and Harold make. Yeah, I see content equaling lead magnet, as you said. So the types of things is like we've seen many different variations go far. So I'm not sure what you're doing as a service or as a product right now, Daniel. But basically, like if you do a software, as I talked with Aman about, do a guide where some of the points is just like sign up to the guide, but you just need a clear, achievable outcome that you're making some sort of guide or some sort of tool for, and then the post in itself I described needs to either be a step-by-step process if your account is cold, or it can just be a hype post if your account already is warm and you have a lot of engaging followers. So with that, just like look at your niche, look at the things which either is already popping off, or look at just what your clients are most excited about like looking at. For us, it's quite obvious when we like, as much as we love talking about like the macro and the whole infrastructure that you need, most of you guys don't really care about it. So it's kind of like sad to like be actually like putting things out there while people just want to hear like the same questions. And I get it because it's what you see. But it's just how can I make lead magnets that get hundreds of leads coming in? And it's like, I get it. And it's not what a client necessarily needs. It's what a client wants that you want to display on LinkedIn as well as of the lead magnets. So just look at what people are talking about, either through like the validated post or from the stuff that your clients are talking about already.
Good stuff. But I think with that, we have no other questions in the chat. And I think with that, the final thing that we then can say is, for those 19 of you who's still here, we appreciate you sitting out till the end. We're closing up on 2 hours. I wish you all a great rest of the day. If you're in Europe, like, good evening, everyone. If you're in the States, I hope the rest of the day is great. But nonetheless, we appreciate you showing up. Hopefully you learned something, you got something out of this, and watch out on our feeds, because we are likely, or we most probably, going to do more of these. And we're going to keep on sharing valuable resources and lead magnets so that we can teach more of the nuances of the art and the things that we do, so that you can start implementing them bit by bit into your company and what you do. So I think with that, we're going to click end stream, and thank you for showing up.
Ciao, ciao.